We now have a fireside chat session on women in technology between Sakshi Vidur, Head of Information Security, Yum Brands, Kirti Patil, Joint President and Chief Technology Officer, Kotak Mahindra Life Insurance, Mathew, CIO, Mother Dairy, and Brenda, Harvey, General Manager, IBM Asia Pacific. This session will be moderated by Suchetana Ray, Senior Assistant Editor, The Economic Times. Over to you, Suchetana.
Hello and welcome to the Economic Times IBM Reshape Tomorrow Summit. Thank you all for joining me on this panel as we discuss the role of women and their position in technology. Diversity and inclusion help a company become more efficient, productive, and profitable. This is something we all know. McKinsey claimed that gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to outperform the national industry median. Of course, we all know that there's a direct correlation between a company's goals and diverse leadership and workforce. How are companies viewing diversity and inclusion in technology roles as workplaces transform in a pandemic hit world? To talk about all of this and more, please join me in welcoming Kirti Patil, Joint President, IT and CTO at Kotak Life, Mathew, CIO, Mother Dairy, Sakshi Vidur, Head of Information Security, Asia Pacific at Yum Brands, and Brenda, Harvey, GM, IBM, APAC. Welcome to all of you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And let's jump right into the discussion. I'll begin with a question to Annie. Data shows, Annie, that there is a 50-50 gender parity in STEM graduates, but the conversion rate into workforce is much lower in India. Women make up about 34% of the total IT workforce in India. Why do you think this conversion rate is so low?
That's a challenging question, Suchetana. That's a question which I have been pondering about too. Compared to 30 years ago when I started my career, today the women have an amazing setup. I think the opportunities which they have, the kind of interventions which are happening to help women onboard a technology career are humongous. And I fail to understand why more women are not taking advantage of that. I myself know of some cases where the girls have done engineering, they have done CS or IT qualifications. And then when it comes to a career, they opt for teaching careers instead of actually doing work, using the degree that they have worked so hard to earn. So that's something which completely focuses me. To me, possibly we need to do more to expose them to the work environments, give them more internship opportunities, systematically try to involve them more into organizations to show them what are the interesting things being done, how women are making a difference, how are women stepping up and doing things which possibly from outside look challenging, but when you get into it, it is breaking up a problem into smaller pieces and solving it. So that's all that technology or any other role is all about. And once girls actually jump into it, start doing it, possibly the fear factor will go away. And we need to give them more exposure. To me, that's possibly what is lacking, that in colleges, lots more internship opportunities, lots more exposure so that they understand what's happening in the industry.
Somehow make them understand that a career is as important as raising a family, perhaps, somewhere. Perhaps.
I think they start off with that. I don't think any of these girls, when they start working, are thinking from a career perspective that they will have a family and that family will kind of try to derail the career. I don't think they start off with that. But I still see that there is some reluctance to get into it. If your mind is not made up from the beginning, if you are not convinced right from the beginning that you want to have a career, then throughout life, there will be so many bottlenecks, so many constraints, so many people telling you no. Yes. That, I mean, you have to be like a irresistible force about your desire to work. Only then you can sustain all the challenges. But that need, that hunger in you needs to come. that you want to make a difference, you want to do good work, you want to leverage the degree which you have won.
Absolutely. I'll come to Kirti with that question. As Annie mentioned, we've never had it better in India, right? Look at the family support we get, and also the kind of policies that are designed both within companies from the government. So, do you see more and more women coming into technology roles these days? Not only, I mean, technology roles and technology companies, but also across sectors?
So, Suchetana, before I answer that question, can I add to what Annie said and the question that you really asked her? See, when I did engineering 30 years ago, okay, engineering as an educational stream was considered masculine. So there were only 10% girls in my class, and that too because I did electrical engineering. And now I think that percentage is 50%. So engineering or technology science as an educational opportunity is not considered as masculine. But I think that certain roles like a career in technology is still somewhere perceived as a role or as a career which is more masculine in nature, and therefore perhaps we are not able to attract more women to these roles. So I think what we need to do is what Annie said is absolutely right. We need to expose these women as to what does it mean to have a career in technology, and that has to be done at the educational institution level. Okay, maybe more interaction with industry, that is one. Two is we need to have more role models, okay, which who are going to talk about it, that there is an opportunity available for a woman in these careers, and they can manage both. Okay, they can absolutely manage their families, their home life, and this work. This career is manageable by and for a woman also. That is, I think, something that we need to do,
Right.
and only then the women will take to these career choices. Am I seeing more women approaching us for roles in technology? The answer is yes.
Okay.
And the answer is yes, only post the pandemic, Suchetna. And
Right.
that is perhaps not because they are perceiving as a better career opportunity, but because some of the other constraints have been overcome by the
Exactly.
pandemic, right?
Yes.
Which is I don't need to travel, right?
Yeah.
So I can save the 4 hours of travel. I
Mhm.
can get flexible work hours because I'm working at home. So I can manage both. So, though I see more women, it is not really because they are seeing this as a better opportunity or an opportunity that a woman can pursue, but because some of the other hurdles have overcome.
Thank you, Kirti. I'll come to Sakshi. We've talked about mindset, exposure, the need for role models, as well as the impact that the pandemic has had on women joining workforce. What are your takeaways on this entire point that we are discussing?
Right, Suchetna. I completely agree with my fellow panelist here, and I feel like recruiting women to work at tech companies is just half the battle, but retaining women is also an issue many tech companies face. And let's talk about the factor that actually contributes to these women who leave the tech industry. I feel women frequently experience imposter syndrome, which is why maybe women undervalue their worth. And I also feel lack of women mentors is one of the biggest barriers in workplace,
Mhm.
because that creates a feeling of isolation, a lack of representation, and this results in more women experiencing this kind of imposter syndrome. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that I was at a point of time in my career when I had my kids that I wanted to give it up and let it go. So I feel like there are lack of growth, career
Yes.
growth opportunities. That is the most common reason why women leave the industry, apart from the flexibility and other things that are being mentioned. So women do feel
Absolutely.
outnumbered in our industry, and I feel men definitely have more opportunities for career growth.
Point taken, Sakshi. I'll come to Brenda with this. Brenda, do you have children?
I do. I have one daughter, yes, who's
Okay, same
just
here. I have a
started.
daughter. Once she was born, 3 months at home, I really wanted to get back to work. What is your experience, A? And B, I want to ask you about IBM specifically. You're a technology company, and your website shows that of all the executive hires in 2019, 36 were women. You tell me that the number has shot up. When do we reach 50%?
Great question. So I would just share that my experience as a mother working in IBM, and I've been in IBM all of my career, has been wonderful. She was traveling. She was on a plane at 6 months I didn't get on a plane until I was 20 years old, which is probably late in today's world, but 6 months is probably early. And she was actually going with me to work. So I've been able to have her with me. I was in China working. She was there for 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. She's become a truly international citizen. So I've been able to give her that opportunity. While I know she's missed other opportunities to be with me, I think in the end it's balanced out. So my guilt has been kind of overtaken by all of these great characteristics and life learnings that she's had. But now to how I take that into how I look at my role in leading Asia Pacific, but also in mentoring and coaching and supporting women. To your point, in Asia Pacific, the women executives that we've in our percentages in the last year, so this is 2020, we are actually at 45% are women executives. So we're not at 50% yet, and we are leading the rest of the geographies. And I'm very proud of that, but I'm more proud of the women and the role models that are in each of the countries across Asia Pacific. And in 6 of those countries, actually women are the country general managers. So I do think it is about starting women earlier in their understanding, not only of work and business, but in STEM, because I do believe that all businesses today are truly technology businesses because of the value of data and AI and business processes and all of that. So we at IBM and especially in India have committed to girls in STEM. We have a target of 200,000 girls who we will touch. So quite an amazing impact that we can make. In Australia, New Zealand, we have a program called Fem in STEM. And this again targets high school girls, gives them opportunities to join us in design thinking or industry sessions before they go on to college to choose degrees. And then personally, I'll just say the last piece about building this pipeline. I personally have a roundtable with 40 of our non-executive women leaders every month. I will say that last year we did promote 4 of them. And I know in different areas, whether that's in sales or technology, research, marketing, finance, and it really has built this stronger network and this understanding that there are opportunities for career development, and you can talk about the concerns about moving forward in your career when you are trying to balance a family or all of the other pressures that many of us were balancing through COVID. So I think that this understanding of diversity, inclusion, and helping see that allyship that comes out of that will help continue to build and get us to that 50% as we go forward.
Right, Brenda, important points that you mentioned. One is that if you're looking for role models, look no further. 4 of you are here. And secondly, I think this guilt that you talk about, it's a primary inhibitor that we create for ourselves, perhaps. And with that, I'll go to Kirti. Kirti, we're talking about role models. You know, in a recent interview to me, Kalpana Morparia mentioned that in the Indian context, the kind of family support we have, we really should not see the number of women who actually drop out at the mid-career level. But she had no answer as to why that happens. And she also, I mean, of course, that's not only true for BFSI, it's true to all sectors. Why do you think it is such a challenge to retain diversity at senior and leadership roles? And what is Kotak Life specifically doing to retain and to transit women to a C-suite level?
That's a great question, Suchetana. All of us know that it is not only in BFSI or in tech, but the broken rung is what really one has to be worried about. Because as more and more women are getting educated, they are also entering the workforce. But it is during, after say 5 years of starting their work, we see that women give up, okay, which is where they get married, maybe they have children, so they have to support family, bring up children, and so on and so forth. And I think not all women leave at that point in time because they don't have the necessary support at home. Some leave it because of the perceived role that a woman has to play, and I think there are 2 things that have to happen. And first, I'll talk from a women point of view, right? they need to first believe in themselves, right? They need to aspire, because if there is no aspiration, then they will not strive and build a career. And there are role models available who have handled both. And Brenda did mention about what she has gone through. And I have a daughter, right? And now she's 27 years old. She's more like a friend. And when I asked her, did you miss me not being at home? She said, no. I absolutely loved the way you brought me up. So just the guilt has to go away. So I'm saying the women have to aspire. They have to put in that effort, need to believe in them, have to have confidence, have to ask for more. From an organization point of view, all said and done, okay, even when the women aspires for it, there is a family pressure that the woman has to handle. Primary caregivers are still women all across the globe.
Yes.
So employers do need to have facilities available to women. First is mentorship, okay, and I think Sakshi did mention it. We need to have a good mentorship program within the firm, because when I was going through, and when I traveled to China when my daughter was 4 years old. Unfortunately, I couldn't take her along, but I left her here, and I know what I went through at that point in time. Had I had somebody with whom I would have shared my challenges, it would have been easier for me. So the mentee program is absolutely required. Two is, this
Mhm.
diversity and inclusion has to be a business priority. It shouldn't be an HR thing or a women thing. Okay, all business leaders need to believe in it, need to support the women by giving them equal opportunities, measuring them by equal yardsticks, giving them stretch targets, but at the same time also giving them the space that they need. Okay, maybe flexible working, maybe little bit of compromise that they would have to
Mhm.
do. I think if we do that,
Yeah.
then women will continue, and the organizations will benefit. Okay, it absolutely makes business sense to have more women, more
Absolutely.
diversity and inclusion in the workplace.
And empathy, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Annie, I'll come to you. We've been talking about more representation of women in tech roles, and perhaps the lack of it, do you think, is hindering more women to come into technology roles? And what is Mother Dairy doing? Forget technology overall to keep women in the workforce to help them transit to leadership role.
We have been very lucky. We had a chairman for a long time. Dr. Amrita Patil was our chairman, I think, for 20, 25 years kind of thing. That sets a very good role model for the organization. And it makes it a lot easier when you come in, when you have such a great mentor who's already in the organization and who's been driving the organization forward. Now we have another chairman. She's also a woman, Ms. Varsha Joshi. She just took over in December. It's great to have these role models to look up to. And as a result, some of these transition issues of having more women at CXO levels, of women orientation is not so much of a challenge. We have a lot of structured programs like our management trainee and executive trainee programs. We have significant percentage of women in there. We have continuous leadership skilling and training initiatives, not specifically for women. So that's something which I should make it clear, that do we do things which are, I mean, other than the Women's Day and the celebration of women events? No. We ensure that everyone gets an equal opportunity throughout all performance. So a meritocracy kind of thing does come into picture. But when it comes into giving them more opportunities to learn, more opportunities to skill themselves, we make sure that definitely happens. They are part of all transformation projects. Like we have some Six Sigma projects. We are doing a major business transformation project right now, which is led by a woman. So these are the ways we encourage more women to participate. Can we do more? I think everyone can do more. There is, I will never at any point in time say that we are doing enough. To me, supporting women with flexi hours is something possibly we should be looking more into. Manufacturing companies typically operate with a different paradigm, and it becomes quite difficult to change some of those. More work from home options for women with small babies would be really good to look into and to facilitate. So those are things which we do on an ad hoc basis, but not as a structured program. Those are possibly things which we need to do more of.
You know, Annie, I was going through your website And when I stumbled upon the careers page, it has pictures of women, and it leads me to various other pages also. All the pages had pictures of women. It's very heartening to see, while yes, you have career opportunities for everybody, there's the fact that you have women faces to talk about career. I think that is heartening to see, And
The
yeah.
dairy industry is a very woman-focused industry by itself, by nature. So, I mean, and the dairy industry in India has empowered more
Yeah,
women. That has been the strength, the cooperative movement, actually.
absolutely.
So Suchetna, one
Please.
thing that we are doing in Kotak is, some interventions for the leadership, which is one intervention I want to talk about, which is on unconscious bias. And putting up pictures of women on the website will actually work towards removing that unconscious bias that is there
Yeah.
in everybody's mind.
Thanks for helping me with that phrase. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. Unconscious bias. Yes. Sakshi, I'll come to you. You are a boss. You lead a team. And Annie, Kirti, all of us, we've been talking about flexi hours, work from home. India is a very competitive jobs market. If I were to ask for flexi hours, if I were to ask for work from home, even in a non-pandemic year, I do not know what will happen to my appraisal. What do you, I wanted you to come in on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Annie and Kirti and my other, co-panelists, they've been spot on this, that, it's not just about hiring the women, but also being able to retain them, promoting them into leadership roles as well. So I feel the key thing, like you mentioned, is to create an inclusive workplace culture. I think companies really need to create that kind of a work environment, be it through executive level reviews, sponsorship programs, also voluntary diversity training. So this is, how we need to create a culture of sponsorship where the senior leaders are actually actively engaged advocates of women, and not just mentors or allies, but this kind of helps retain and advance the female technologists as well. So I also feel that, there should be more benefits and incentives that appeal to women, be it on insurance, vacation time, bonuses, raises, or parental leave. This is a big incentive for women. So introducing policies for post maternity support for the mothers who want to return to work, as well as benefits for the working mothers. So, including the flexible working hours, these are invaluable for women as such. And very few companies today are actually offering programs like return to work program, where women want to rejoin the workplace after a career break. So this is definitely very important.
Yes, Akshan, as you're trying to say, is that this is not about a privilege anymore. It's a right. You have to give it. Brenda, I'll come to you. IBM has this program called Tech Re-Entry Program for Women who took a break. How encouraging is the response to that program?
Well, so thank you for bringing that up. It's not as high yet as we want, but we are encouraging it. So we've all heard of the term internship. Well, now we're calling this returnship.
Returnship, yes.
So this is a really important program for everything we've talked about. And so this tech reentry is for talented technical professionals who took a break for many of the reasons, or just wanted to explore other opportunities in their life. And during the returnship experience, we are helping them rebuild their skills in contemporary work environment. And they have access to all the latest tools, technologies. It is paid, and it gives them the opportunity to work alongside that multidisciplinary teams. And I think that is so important because, again, it is about building that network of where the right fit is as you return back. And we are able to see, for the ones that have come back in, it's been very, very positive, forging new relationships, creating new mentors. But one piece I'll say is that as they come in and go forward, it's not just about mentorship. And mentorship is about talking to someone and helping them through. It's about sponsorship. Sponsorship is when you talk about someone, not just to someone. And so we have to have sponsors that talk about them and put them up for opportunities and speaking up for someone. So we're also putting this other focus on this idea of a sponsorship for those tech reentry, internship, returnship women. And I think that's what's going to really make this a very positive experience for them.
So you're working towards creating a workplace that is more accepting of women and also more empowering for them. I'll come to all of you with this question. What do you think is the role of a male colleague here? Whoever wants to take it first.
I'll just stay with it. I think it's very important. We We have talked about women and male allies. So this allyship, it's at all levels. They have to be, and I'll say, not a bystander. They have to be an upstander, where they see something happening, whether that's unconscious or conscious, to say something, to at least be aware of it. And for those men that are in all levels of management, to be aware of the diversity, but also inclusion, asking for opinions, seeing again how that unconscious bias takes place in meetings or in decisions where men feel like they're helping out a woman. Well, maybe she can't work late. Maybe she can't take that trip. Maybe she can't do that, out of being kind, but it's really about a bias. So that's really a big focus for us. We've had discussions in teaming and education for awareness. And then actually, as we go forward now, a little bit more on metrics of women who have been promoted within male business units, and continuing as we go forward.
Annie, you wanted to say something. Thank you, Brenda.
See, to me, male colleagues need to be more receptive to the idea of sponsorship too. Quite a few times I face some kind of a challenge that you're supporting this woman too much, and we are not getting the same degree of support, kind of thing. These kind of challenges also do come up. And to evenly balance out these kind of things, we need to ensure guys understand the differences between the career choices which women have to make. When a woman comes into a career, she is multitasking so much. She's challenged by so many different problems, right from children, in-laws, parents, the entire demographic. So when she's trying to come to work, she has to be given some leeway, whether it is with respect to timing. I hold women up to the same deliverables, right? And that's something which I don't compromise on. That's quality, the standard of work typically tends to be better, if not at par. But giving them some flexibility with respect to leaves as much as required, with respect to some flexible timings. So guys need to be sensitized about that. They need to be more accepting of these differences. And we need to possibly have more trainings which include guys.
Absolutely. Kirti, yeah, you want to say something?
So Suchetana, I think men have a larger role to play than women in this, okay? Because we are seeing that women are leaving the workforce at the middle level. And maybe maximum of 10% of employees would be managerial level, right, across industries. So a woman is always measured, and this decision for promotion is by and large taken by the man, right? So it is therefore the men who have to change more, and only if that happens, then we will really be able to achieve what we want to achieve. So like you said that it is difficult to get women on, say, tech panel discussions. I would be happy if tomorrow, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we have more men in these panels who speak about it, okay? Only then we would have achieved what we have set out to achieve.
Beyond the mere tokenisms that we see on Women's Day and Mother's Day and others. Sakshi, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, sure.
Of men in a workplace, yeah.
Yeah, so while I think this requires a change, not just at work, but very much at home as well. You know, men need to take more childcare responsibilities at home, but that's on the personal front. But yeah, as a woman and a mom of 2 sons with a 19 years career, you know, my experience has taught me that if companies address culture as priority in their business, we would accelerate progress quickly. So while encouraging women to kind of lean in, raise their hands higher, you know, we must kind of place equal focus on the employers to fix, or the men to kind of fix the problem, you know, because the current landscape for women in tech is certainly improving, but we need to make some significant strides. And, you know, from my personal experience, I feel like women sometimes face hostile work environment, and we need to address that. So it's important that companies, you know, constantly reevaluate workplace practices and make sure they align with the new diversity initiatives, be it through employee surveys. You know, the workforce can provide honest feedback on culture-related issues and suggest the solutions as well. So the one big thing our male colleagues need to do is to kind of be more understanding and empower the women in the workplace, you know, to enable women to accelerate into leadership through some of the points that my co-panelists have also already mentioned, because these are like high potential women leaders, so we need to, the men need to kind of accelerate their development within the organization with their support.
Yeah, as Annie mentioned, same deliverables, but trust your women colleagues more, right? With a little bit of empathy. I'll come to Kirti with this question. A report shows that if upskilled, women would excel in AI, data analytics, and cybersecurity. Why do you think technology needs more women, and especially in these fields?
See, there is data which shows that diverse teams are better at innovation. Okay? All the fields that you mentioned, they need innovation. Diverse teams are better at problem solving because men and women do tend to think differently. So different views are brought to the table. So the problem solving skills of diverse teams are different. Now, if you look at the skills that women themselves bring to the table, right? I spoke about the team. Now I'll talk about the women themselves. Now, what is the skill that is really required today in these fields and going forward as well? One is resilience, okay, and that is what the pandemic has really taught us. And enough and more studies have been done, and it is proven that women are more resilient than men. So that is a skill that they bring to the table. And technology in companies like ours, okay, in BFSI, we need to be able to collaborate with all business functions, and collaboration is a skill which women bring to the table very differently, and I'm talking it from experience of the women in that work for me in my team. Adaptability, great skill required today in today's digital leader, and women bring that to the table. EQ, empathy. I mean, a lot has been spoken about digitization, but digitization is really about the mindset. And I think these skills women do bring to the table. So it is absolutely important for us to have women in all functions, but definitely in technology.
There are most reports show that if upskilled, women would excel in certain aspects of a technology profile, which is AI, data analytics, and cybersecurity. So my question is, why do you think technology needs more women?
One, if you analyze the difference, one is the whole mathematical mindset, right? Women, I believe women tend to be very good at problem solving. That's a skill which comes very naturally to them, and technology is all about problem solving and logical thinking. Nobody can beat a woman at logical thinking, and that's an inherent part of the technology landscape. To me, the second biggest part of all technology, especially the new technology aspects, is collaboration. It is not that one person sits in a silo somewhere and works on solving a particular problem. You need to collaborate, and it's happening more and more as technology is evolving. The number of skill sets which are needed to put together a solution are also increasing. And that is where the collaborative skills, the ability of a woman to bring multiple people, have a discussion and bring it to a logical conclusion, that plays a very strong role. And that, I believe, is a skill which women inherently have, maybe because they have always played that role in their families and in their ecosystems.
Brenda.
Yeah, I would just add maybe one word called multitasking, which I think we all are very familiar with. And this ability to have a calm presence to handle multiple things. Now, sometimes things get dropped, but I think that's really important in the corporate environment too, because there's lots of different dynamics happening. And so if you can balance and do things at the same time, I think that is one characteristic of women, and that does bode well in leadership capacity too. And in dealing with uncertainty, this is, of course, the new normal. And in that, we focus on what we can control versus all the other things out there. So that prioritization and that focus will help, I think, us women typically do better in these situations.
Absolutely, Brenda. I think you'll agree with me, because resilience is a oft used word and the most used adjective these days post the pandemic. But I think resilience was an adjective I firmly believe that was invented for women, I think. No?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Brenda, I had a specific question for you. That is, if you look globally, there is also a glass ceiling for women in tech roles, even globally. Look at the US, the participation from the data that we have. how can how can we address gender imbalance in work environments?
Yes, well, I actually have some more bad news, I think, to add to this, Suchetana. So IBM just completed a study and about women, and it was tied to International Women's Day. And actually, it says that we're actually losing our footing in the effort to achieve gender equality. In fact, COVID has put us back with a number of women, 5 million in the US and across the world. This is putting us back to 1988 status, which is really distressful. And so this is what we're calling this gender equality fatigue. And I think this is a recognition that companies are just accepting the fact they don't know how to turn the curve. But if we don't do something now, right, this second wave of the pandemic will be about the loss of women in the workplace and leadership roles that we will not be able to recover. So I do think it's important to continue to focus on all of these programs, whether that's return to work or ability to have flexible hours, to do this training of diversity and inclusion, to create new programs and opportunities. And I believe also this understanding of what are the skills that women will need, and maybe there are new opportunities for them in the era of AI and technology that allow them to deliver value in a new way that might be different as we go forward. So I think it's incumbent on many of the leaders on the call today to understand how effective the programs are. And I do think first we have to acknowledge that it is a dire situation right now as we're still in the middle of the pandemic. And we have to take action now to understand, can we influence the outcome that we're on a trajectory to see.
Thank you, Brenda, for bringing that point up. Yes, just some time back, Geeta Gopinath, the chief economist at IMF, she in her annual address raised this issue of how the pandemic has been the harshest to women in the workforce. I'll take this question to both Kirti and Sakshi, and whoever wants to go first. While Brenda talks about the global experience and the gender equality fatigue, Indian experience is a little different. Gender imbalances in workplaces were prevalent. They're on the wane, but they're still there around the nooks and crannies of India. So Kirti and Sakshi, how can we address issue of creating a workplace which has gender balance?
Sure. So I think a lot has been said on this front, but I feel like, it's this ongoing environment where, everyone, like women want to bring their whole self to work each day. They want to feel valued, heard, and able to make an impact while progressing their career. So I think that's what we need, like conscious inclusion. And, so that's where I feel like, to be able to lead, think and act with the whole, cultural intent in terms of coming from the employers to including women into leadership roles and taking them forward. So that's where I think companies need to focus on now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what we are doing. So first of all, it has to be a business priority, and it has to be therefore led from the top. And it is about the culture. It is about including everybody in this program. So that's the first thing that one needs to do. One needs to, and once that becomes a business priority, right? Action has to be taken. We have to start with measurement. We have to take targets, perhaps for at least for recruitment, and on merit. Okay, I'm not saying we have to compromise on merit. We have to have interventions for leadership, which is the unconscious bias that is there. We have to overcome that. That is from the employer side. For the women, we need to give them equal opportunities. We need to have equal yardsticks for measurement. We need to have mentorship, upskilling programs for them. And what we have done in addition to this is we have created a platform for the women, okay, to share their experiences with the women colleagues. And this is, we invite people, women leaders from outside to share their experiences, and that is a great learning experience for women. So I believe it is a journey that in which both the women and the employers have to equally participate. Only then we will be able to make progress.
Okay, Kirti, I have one last question to Annie before we go with a quick fire question to end this lovely session that we've had. Annie, my question to you is that we were just discussing before we started this panel. It is about a video that went viral on Women's Day. You watched it. It's by one of the leading digital wallets in India. The question is that you saw how, when it came to influencers' role in a family, from buying a car to perhaps all FMCG buying decisions, it's a woman's decision which prevails. The moment the decision is about buying a financial instrument, taking a financial decision, or taking decision about a certain technology aspects, even the software that I need to use for cybersecurity on my computer, the role suddenly changes. I know it doesn't happen to you, but this is a story prevalent in large parts of India. Why do you think that the role suddenly reverses? Are we not confident when it comes to finance?
See, I think it boils down to how are girls treated in their families itself. I think that's how I would differentiate myself. That maybe that is what helps. I'm sure if I ask all the women in this panel also, and the reason they would attribute to being where they are today would be because of the fact that they were always treated as equals in their families. If that doesn't happen, to me, that confidence cannot come to step up. As I said, in college, we were like 8 out of some 60 people in a class. I've seen 1 or 2 women in any kind of an event or panel or anything like that. To be able to speak up, you need confidence. That confidence comes with self-belief. If you involve the girls in your family, your daughters, into the decision-making process, and not only about decor or curtains, but into, okay, which washing machine, which car, what should we be spending? How do we plan a budget? Maybe help her plan the budget for the family. That is important. Get them involved into banking processes from childhood itself. We need to give them those opportunities so that they are more exposed. To me, if you protect them too much, if you keep telling them, they will reinforce it themselves. If you keep telling them, you can't do this, you are a girl, don't try to bother your head, it's too complicated, they will start believing it themselves. So please don't do that to your daughters. Treat your children equally, give them the same opportunities. I think life will be sorted out later.
Yes, a stronger woman will always raise a stronger girl, hopefully. Before I end this panel, a quick round of quick fire question to all of you. What are the top 3 tips that you will give to a woman who's graduated with a science subject and is looking at joining a tech profile? I'll start with Brenda.
Sure. Be a lifelong learner. And what I say to everyone, if you doubt your power, you give power to doubt. And this is a vicious cycle. So move it to a virtuous cycle, build confidence, and your greatest learnings will come from taking on your greatest risks.
Thank you. Annie, top 3 tips.
I would second that. Learning, never to stop learning, to not listen to anyone who tells you can't do something, always to believe in yourself and trust your gut instincts. They will always be right. And to live with the guilt, it will always be there. Accept the guilt, but find a way to still do things which you always wanted to do.
Kirti.
So first is aspire and persevere, okay, and be relevant. So keep learning.
Wow. Sakshi.
I think my advice is to not get intimidated and take chances, because taking chances and demanding respect in this male-dominated field is absolutely fine to get the experience and knowledge and, to be successful. And the second one is that I'd say network and, find mentors, go to meetups, meet people who are in the industry, join groups. Today, there are so many groups available on LinkedIn, and attend conferences. And this is where you kind of make your connections. So that is my advice.
Thank you so much.
Suchetana, I just want to say, don't try to be a superwoman.
Wonderful. So, yes, thank you so much, all of you. It's been a great panel. I have been asked to sum it up, and I do not know what to say to this exhilarating experience that I had today. Only to say that May I have the opportunity of knowing more of you, learning more from you, and may there be more of you. Thank you so much to Brenda, Annie, Kirti, Sakshi for taking the time out. It's lovely to have you here. It was a great panel.
Thank you everyone for an insightful chat session. Stay tuned for the next session.